Welcome to Marian's World, everyone, and today I'm back with some really pretty embroidery. I'm using my silk ribbons, just white. I'll show you how to paint them in, and I'm also doing some embroidery with thread as well, so that if you don't have access to the ribbons you can still join in and do this little piece of embroidery. And what I'm doing is I'm embroidering on my botanicals dress with some pretty little forget-me-nots. So I hope you enjoy it. I'll see you at the end. Today my supplies, as well as my embroidery threads and my tangle, are silk ribbon and my Inktense paints. Now, you don't have to have Inktense, you can do perfectly well with acrylic paints, but that's because I like to use white silk ribbon and paint it myself, because I think that's more natural. I do have some green here, that's just 4mm. You can see there I've painted some there from just another project, and I'm going to be using that today, but I do like to just buy it white, because if you've got acrylic paint you can very easily paint it up yourself and get a more natural look, and I'm going to show you both of them being used today. Going to pick out some greens from my tangle to use them, and this is what I'm going to be doing. Little sprigs of forget-me-nots all over my botanicals dress. Well, when I say all over, I've got 4 or 5 marked out, and I did that one so I could show you what I'm aiming for. Well, what I've done is I've done some stems already, and I've got one marked out still to do. None of this is going to be done in a hoop because this is my linen dress. I don't want any marks on it. I don't particularly want to stretch out the material, and so where I can, I'm not going to be using a hoop. So first things first, I'm going to get a crewel needle, and I'm going to put some I'm going to put 6 strands of stranded cotton in. I've got this nice mossy green. These were done with a pearl cotton from the tangle, and I just can't see the rest of it, so I'm going to use this pearl cotton. I don't actually often embroider with all 6 strands. I'm putting a knot in because I have nowhere to put a waist knot in at the moment, but if I come back from there I can stitch over and probably cut the knot off, because I don't really want knots on the inside of this with it being a dress, and I'm still actually hoping to wear this as a dress. I'm going to go forward about maybe 1 centimetre, just less than ½ an inch, and come back halfway. And so every time I come backwards I'm going to keep the loop of my thread on the same side all the time, and at the moment I'm keeping it to the left. You could keep it to any side you wish. If you don't keep it to the same side every time, you won't get the rope-like effect that stem stitch makes. And because I'm just in the hand, I'm going to be super careful of not pulling my thread tight, because I don't want any puckers on this fabric at all. Just divert to one side to put a little branch on, come up through the thread. So I don't want to stem stitch here, I don't want to thicken the line. So I'm just going to go out with a straight line there. It's been really nice to see the all the comments coming in from my video sewing all my scraps together. I've actually done another 2 meters of scraps in the last few days, so that's been working really well. And I still do have material. It's not like it's every single piece, but there's a lot of it. Right, I'm just going to go up there and do the same as I did on that one. I'm going to go out for a branch, go to the end of the branch, come back down to split it. I'll go out for a side branch and come back in again. Back down to the stem stitch and carry on up. So I think maybe I want another little branch there. I've got a bit out of my tangle here. I think it's a similar colour. There's only 2 strands here, so I'll just use that to put another branch in. I would like to put some leaves in. I'm going to use my same needle, and I'm going to put some of this 4mm green ribbon in. So to do ribbon work, where I need to thread the needle, just going to put a little point on the end of there. Going to put the ribbon through the eye of the needle, and then I'm going to pull it through, and to anchor the thread into the needle, I'm now going to poke the needle through the end, just about 1/8 of an inch in from the end, and if I pull all of the ribbon down, it secures it onto my needle. And I'm going to work with about just over 1 foot. Any more just ends up getting twisted all the time. And I don't want to put a knot in here, but I do want to be able to secure it. So I'm going to bend over the end of the ribbon, and I'm going to put my needle through it like that and make a secureness, so that that is how I'm going to secure my ribbon on the back. And I'm going to work up from the bottom to put some little leaves in. Pull my ribbon up. I'm going to lie the ribbon where I think it needs to lie, and I'm going to use ribbon stitch to lie it in. And ribbon stitch just means that I'm going to poke my needle through the ribbon at the length of the leaf that I want to put in. So I'm going to just go there, that's about 1 inch. And I'm just going to hold everything while I pull that through, and then as that ribbon gets pulled through, it's going to make a little pointed top like that, and that's all I need there. And I'll put another couple of leaves in, so I'll just come up to the next piece. Going to lie my leaf, ribbon stitch it in, and just watch it as the ribbon curls in and stop when I like it. And that's why I'm working up from the bottom, so that each one ends and I haven't got far to travel to go to the next one, because I don't want to waste my ribbon. Just hold everything nicely as that ribbon goes in. And you can see sometimes the ribbon curls up the opposite way to the way you want. I've got the ribbon curling upwards and I really want it curled downwards. I'm just going to turn it over. You can manipulate the ribbon to suit you, and I don't want the curl facing upwards, I want it facing downwards. So I'm just going to put a small stitch there. No, it's covering up my little stalk, it doesn't matter. It's where I want it to be. And I'm going to put one more little leaf just here. And I think they look good, so that's them finished off. So I'm just going to put a knot and hold it down to my fabric and let the rest of the ribbon go under those bits, and that'll be fine. So I'm threaded up again with 4mm white ribbon in the same needle as I've already been using, and I'm going to put the flowers and the buds in, all with the white ribbon. I'll start down here with the buds, and I'm going to just do French knots, but I'm going to try and make them quite tight and then a bit loose, and then come to the flowers. And I'm just going to do one wrap round and back down a couple of threads away, just like a normal one wrap French knot. I'm going to pull this one a little bit tighter. I'm going to do a bigger bud now. I'm going to put in a French knot, just the same, like that. But this time I want a bigger bud, so I'm just going to come up at the bottom of it with my ribbon, and I'm going to put the ribbon over the top and down again. I'm not doing ribbon stitch, I'm just stitching over the French knot, but as the ribbon goes through, I'm going to make sure it's nice and smooth, and then that's going to give it some dimension as one little bud. So it's my first open flower, and come up at the middle of the flower. I'm going to make sure that the rolled in edges are facing down to the fabric, and I'm going to lie it where I want, and I'm going to ribbon stitch in, and I'm not going to make these petals very long. They're maybe about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to hold everything in and keep an eye on it as the fabric goes down. Get the little point to the end and come back up a little way away for the next petal. So I'm going to put 5 petals in. I'm going to make sure there's a space in the middle. So again, I'm making sure that the edges are rolled downwards. I'm measuring my petal out about 1/4 of an inch. Poke my needle down through the ribbon, and then just keep an eye on it as it rolls the fabric, the silk in. So there's my first open flower. But it's nice to get back to some hand embroidery after all the machining. I say that as if I haven't been doing any, but I have. For one thing, there was the reverse applique cardigan, that was all hand embroidery. Then I did the the snowdrop seams ages ago now. I need to put some more things on my coat really. Now that all of the ribbon stitches are done, I'm about to put the centres in. It's really pale yellow stranded cotton. I'm going to use 3 strands, and as usual I take them out singly just by pulling one thread at a time, and I'll recombine them in my needle because it makes for everything lying much better than if you just split the 6 strands in half. And just do it once or twice and then come up where I want to come up, and that will be fine. I'll come up in that first flower there, and I'm just going to do a 1 wrap French knot, but I'm not going to pull it very tight. Now French knots in the hand I don't think are as easy to do. Actually, I'm going to do a 2 wrap French knot. They're not as easy to do as in the hoop, I think, but here we go. So I'm not going to pull it overly tight. I really would like to see the circle once the knot is made, so I'm just going to leave it that little bit loose, and now maybe you can see that I've got the circle there rather than a tight knot, and I'm just going to go from one to the other the shortest route I can. So up in the middle, once and twice round my needle, back down a few threads away. I pull my knot to the fabric, leaving it a tad loose so that I can get a little circle. Beautiful. I'm going to do that to all of my open forget-me-nots. I'm actually going to show the forget-me-nots in thread as well for those people who may not have access to the ribbon. So the next thing is doing the painting. I've got my Inktense paints here, and these, once they just go on like watercolours or acrylic paint. If you don't have these, acrylic paint works well. You just need a small brush, and I've got a little piece of sheet here, a little piece of white sheet, just to test my colours. And so I've got a couple of colours here. I'm just going to make that one into a bit of a loose mix. You can do this on a little plate, on a china plate. I quite often use a saucer. I'll just pick up a bit of that, and I'm just going to test the colour. And that looks about right to me. I'm just going to try this darker one as well. Sometimes I mix the colours together. I'll just pick up a bit of that. Again, that's a different colour, but just as nice. So I'm going to use a combination of both of them. And I don't want it thick off the block, so I'm going to just make up a little, what you would call a slurry in here that I can pick up from. So both of those colours are going in there. And then I'm going to just use my clean water. I'm just going to touch the ends of the petals, because the colour will sort of suck off the brush into it, and I want to keep the middles white, because that's what real forget-me-nots are like. This is where the beauty of using the white ribbon comes in, because I can get a more natural look than if I'd used a blue ribbon. I'll bring you in a little bit more, and just make sure my brush is wet. I'll pick up some of the colour, and all I'm going to do is just hold my fabric. I don't need anything underneath. There's not going to be enough water to soak anywhere, but I'm just going to touch the ends of the petals and let that colour soak through, and it'll just sort of gradually, with capillary action, it'll pull down the petal, it'll pull down the ribbon, but it'll leave a white bit in the middle, which will look really pretty. I'm going to use that other blue. Let's use the other blue on a bud. Again, I'm not going to paint at all. I'm going to help, hopefully that's going to colour in there. It's just going to work its way down. And I'll do another one. Just the ends of the petals. I'm not even, the paint and the water is not even going near to the linen of the dress. It is only touching the ribbons. I'm going to wash my brush and just pick up a bit of normal water, and I'm just going to put it on the petal to encourage that blue to flow. I don't want a hard line. I'll just encourage the blue to flow down without making a hard line. And here I go with another one. It's really satisfying to do, especially when you see the end result. Sometimes you can put the water on your petal first and then pick up your paint. And as I say, this works with acrylics absolutely just as well, because that's what I used to use before I had the Inktense. I do love them though, because they keep the fabric soft. If I was at this dilution, there's not really any difference. But if I wanted a really sort of vibrant thick colour, acrylic would have altered the fabric to be a bit more stiff, whereas Inktense never does. You can see those are moving through the fabric nicely. And the other thing is, these may look a little bit dark at the moment, but Inktense dries lighter. Acrylic paint will tend to dry the colour, it'll go onto the fabric. Inktense is always lighter once it's dried, so it's always a good idea to go light, the colour that you want, and when it dries lighter you can go over it. It's harder to get you can't get the colour out, because once it's dry it's colour fast. So up here where the buds are, I'm actually going to put a bit of pink on. I'll wait and see how that dries up before I do anything else. So one last thing, and it really is almost gilding the lily. It's not something that needs to be done in a way, because that's a perfectly beautiful forget-me-not just as it is, but I've put a single strand of charcoal in my needle. I could have chosen a finer needle, but I'm just going with the one I've been using all the time, and I'm just going to put one last finishing touch in here that will make a little difference to me. You might not notice the difference, but I will. I'm going to come up right through that French knot where I left the little circle in the middle. I'm going to come up right through the middle of it. And on this one strand of charcoal, I'm going to do a single wrap French knot and go back down through the middle. There we go. And all it does is it just makes you realise that there is an actual hole down the middle of there, which there is. I'm just going to go from one to the other, a single wrap, and back down the French knot. And I'm going to do each and every one, and it definitely doesn't have to be done. I'll show you close up how that's going to look. And well, there's 3 done and 4 undone. I definitely like the ones that are done, so I'm going to continue doing that. I think that little extra charcoal grey French knot has made a really pretty difference. I thought I'd do my last set of forget-me-nots with thread, and look as I may, I haven't quite got the right colour in my tangle, so that's going to one side. Oh, actually that might be good for the pink buds. I'll take that one out. I've just spotted that one. There's not very much, but I can still use it, so that one's out. So I've taken that for the buds. Oh, and that one. There we go. I've got bud ones. But for the blue, I'm going to take this blue here, which I think is quite a good one. So that's the stranded cotton I'm going to use for the flowers. So first of all, I'll put some open flowers in, I think. So I will take a length of this lovely blue. I think all 6 might be just too much, so I'm just going to take 4, I think. I'll just keep those. I'll just start on the back and weave in, and I'll come up to do these couple of flowers here. What I thought I could do is, on this I can show you 2 or 3 different stitches that would be equally nice to use for forget-me-nots. And so first of all, just to be super easy, I'm going to do chain stitches. So I'm going to make them about 1/4 inch long, wrap around the back of my needle to make just a proper chain stitch, but I'm going to pull that little chain stitch so it's almost closed, and back up for the next one, and again I'll just angle them round. So I think actually less than 1/4 inch, and by recombining you can see how lovely those threads are lying, and as I pull my chain stitch in I can almost close up the petal while still keeping a petal shape, and I hook it down, and it's just going to make a really lovely petal. This will be like a little sample of forget-me-not, this one. And there's my lovely 5 stitches. That was super quick. I think this time I'm just going to do a bit of satin stitch. So I'm going to put the middle stitch in and then do a slightly shorter one either side. Like that. And then off for the next petal. So I'll put the middle stitch in first. It means you can keep your petals nice and even, sort of coming up in the same place at the bottom every time and making each stitch to the side of the middle that tiny bit shorter. That's another pretty forget-me-not. Now the last forget-me-not I'm going to show you is this one, which is using bullion knots. I've still got the same 4 strands in my needle. I'm going to just take a couple of strands of my fabric because I'm going to curl the bullion knot right back on itself. So I want the smallest stitch I can come up with. And I'm going to do 14 wraps of my needle, and I know that because I was practicing them. I started off with just 10 and then increased to 12, but 14 seemed to be the perfect amount. So I'm just going to go around 14 times. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Don't want them overly tight. And I'm going to hold my needle whilst I pull my needle through in the direction it's already lying, and just pull them through all those wraps. And I'm just going to, you can see the knots here, but I'm going to keep my thumb on top while I pull all my thread through. And then as you can't pull it through anymore, I'm just going to take my needle off and pull over. And as I tighten the knot, I'm going to ease it into where I want it to be. And so I want it to be like a little loop, like that. And then I'm going to go right back down, right at the beginning again, like that. And I'm going to just ease my little bullion knot loop into a little bit of an oval, like that. I'm going to leave a little space and do exactly the same again for every single petal. So a tiny little couple of threads on my needle and then 14 wraps. 11, 12, 13, 14. It's not really important how many. You could be doing more if you wanted something bigger. It's just I want my petals to be even, so I'm just going to count them the same as the first one. I'm pulling all my thread through until it won't pull anymore, and then I need to just ease off as I pull through. Use my fingernail to help that wrap, help that bullion knot tighten up, and then hook my needle through, pull it down to secure the knot. And I'm going to do that till I've got 5 petals with a little space in the middle for the yellow French knot. I think they've come out really pretty. The bullion knot forget-me-nots look lovely, the chain stitch ones do, everything does. And so I hope I've given you some options if you don't want to do the silk ribbon or you haven't got access to the silk ribbon. And the polyester ribbon will work as well. I do have that, and that's what I used to use all the time before I had this. But altogether they look lovely on the front of the dress, and I need to put some on the back as well. I've got a little one there still to finish off. It's ready for the flowers, and I haven't done it yet. But I've done 4 of the little sprigs. So, and I think actually I might do a white one because I do have white forget-me-nots in the garden. Oh, and there's another, I forgot to say at the beginning that there's another way of doing forget-me-nots in my fabric flower book. If I go to there, I did that just a few months after my channel started, and that is petal stitch done with a variegated thread, and that is yet another way of doing a forget-me-not flower with embroidered leaves and stems. So I'll link the video to that at the end of this video if you want to go and have a look. Well, I hope you like that. There they are, there's the ribbon ones. And here are the thread ones. And I think both sets have come out really pretty. I do have one more to fill in on the front, and then I'm going to do some on the back as well. And I think it'll just be lovely that they're sprinkled all over the dress. I actually thought about doing some little sprigs along the cuff too, but I might wait until I've see what else I've done. So my idea still is possibly to do forget-me-nots all around the cuffs of the sleeves. So quite busy here because it's Sewing for Pleasure next week, and so I'm going on Wednesday down to Birmingham and staying a couple of nights. Wendy and I've got a bed and breakfast, same place we stayed in last year because it was so nice. And I'll be at the show on Thursday and Friday. So I think at the moment I'm going to take my camera in on Thursday and do some filming. So with any luck, I'll have that video edited for next Sunday's video. So it'll, I hope you look forward to seeing a Sewing for Pleasure video. And yeah, let me know if there's anything in particular you'd like me to film, or anything in particular. I usually try and get talk to some of the stallholder people. I like to go around the exhibitions and see some of that, and just generally have a wander around. And I don't think you'll find me bringing that much home. Oh, that could be famous last words, of course, because I've just cleared out all that fabric, which obviously is still here. It needs to be used up, but it's not in the drawer as scraps anymore. But I think I'm more focused these days on just not bringing things into the house that I have no use for. So it's all going to be pretty. It's all going to be gorgeous. And if I had limitless money, and more importantly limitless room, I just want whole walls of colourful threads, colourful wool and yarns, colourful fabric, because it inspires me when I see it all. And I just love to have just collections of stuff. But in the end, I don't have the room to store it anymore, and I have what I need and what I want, and I have enough for what I need to use. So I'm after some linen for another dress or a skirt, or some embroidery. And actually I don't have that much plain fabric. I think that's what I said last year even. I went down specifically to look for plain jersey, because normally I do, like, this is one of my own t-shirts, and that's what I go for. I go for colourful, this is colourful cotton jersey. But I end up that I don't have anything plain to go with colourful skirts. And so I think what I'm looking for now is some plain linen that I can do embroidery on top of, because the bunny cottons are less useful, and that's how I end up with just using cotton sheets and either dyeing it or using Inktense on them. So I think that's what I'm going to look for, but we'll see. It'll be interesting to look back and see what I actually do bring back with me. That's about it really. I hope you've enjoyed watching the forget-me-nots, and they'd be lovely on a little, well, anything really, little, might make a little forget-me-not necklace that on a bit of the linen left over from doing the smocking. And so actually I've just given myself an idea there. I might just do that. So thanks very much for watching and all your support over everything. And I'll see you next time. Well, I'll take you along with me when I'm at Sewing for Pleasure. So hopefully you'll see that next Sunday. So thanks a lot, and bye for now. Thanks for dropping by and seeing me. Bye everyone.